All right, welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Friday, July 25th, 2025. The fourth and final Friday of the month. Let Trumpomania run wild again. The late, great Hulk Hogan last July at the Republican National Convention. One of thousands of times he got a crowd fired up. President Trump is now on his way to Scotland, where he'll spend the next 3 days. And we begin with Bianca De La Garza on Newsline, as the news of Hulk Hogan's death broke, and a look at the long friendship between President Trump and Hogan.
All right, again, Hulk Hogan passing away, his relationship with the campaign, obviously one we all saw and enjoyed. And there are so many moments. I want to get out now back to our White House correspondent, Mike Carter, with more on the passing of this legend. Mike.
Hey, Bianca, good afternoon again. Well, it was just a year ago that we saw Hulk Hogan at the RNC in Milwaukee, and what a moment that was. Hulk Hogan, maybe the most famous wrestler of all time, getting on stage at the RNC and just really blowing the crowd away. Hulk Hogan calling President Trump in just the days after his assassination attempt. Hogan calling Trump his hero. And of course, the Trump-Hogan friendship goes back decades, back to the 1980s. I mean, President Trump, he used to promote WrestleMania events. He even did so at Trump Tower back in 1987. Trump has consistently praised Hogan's wrestling career and his status as an entertainer. And, you know, you can do a lot of, when you really think about the Trump presidency and his campaigning over the last 10 years, he kind of has acted like a WWE star. President Trump speaks to the blue-collar people in the very same way that Hulk Hogan did. And this moment in particular at the RNC really spoke volumes about how Hulk Hogan sees President Trump and how a lot of Hulkamaniacs see President Trump.
They tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough, and I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Incredible moment. We were in the building for that to see Hulk Hogan campaigning for the former president, what people believed really was likely to be the next president of the United States in light of that assassination attempt last year. While campaigning last year, President Trump liked to joke around with Hulk Hogan and even saying that he could see a role for him in the administration, maybe as the president of the Council on Physical Fitness. So Donald Trump spoke very highly of Hulk Hogan, and Donald Trump look, he gets along with wrestlers. You're going to see an MMA fight here, a little bit of a different style of wrestling, but he wants to host an MMA fight here at the White House later this year. So Hulk Hogan's passing, no doubt, will affect President Trump. We're waiting. We just checked Truth Social. Haven't heard from the president yet, but I think, Bianca, you're going to hear a heartfelt eulogy given by President Trump in an upcoming press conference, maybe this afternoon on the president's tour of the Federal Reserve. There is certainly a deep and long-lasting friendship, and one that President Trump valued greatly.
White House correspondent Mike Carter, visibly saddened at the surprising loss of Hulk Hogan, as are most of us. Long before President Trump thought about being president, he hosted one of the early WrestleMania events at one of his Atlantic City casino hotels in the late 80s. That's how long he has known Hulk Hogan, and the McMahons, for that matter, Vince and Linda McMahon, the current education secretary, who, by the way, are also billionaires. But anytime anyone in any arena, right, be it sports or music or movies, becomes a cultural icon like Hulk Hogan did, transcending multiple generations of people and multiple ethnicities, multiple income brackets, it affects so many people in so many different ways with all kinds of different memories, right? Bianca, who did a tremendous job covering this yesterday, spoke about it with another popular former wrestler
Let's bring in Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs. So good to have you. Glenn, you know, you're in your suit and tie, but a lot of people know you as a professional wrestler, as Kane. And there's some iconic clips of you, Hulk, even The Rock. Let's get your reaction, first off, to the passing of this legend and a person you knew so well and what he did for wrestling and the world, really, actually, to bring them to that sport that you loved as well.
Yeah, he created opportunities for people like me, really took professional wrestling and helped make it what it is today. He was not only, though, a professional wrestler, he transcended that. I mean, he was an entertainment and pop culture icon, as they were talking about. Everyone from Sylvester Stallone and starring in Rocky III onwards, the guy was just a phenom, and he would certainly be missed. And I've had so many people reach out to me, and just feels like a part of our childhood died because so many of us, that's what we grew up with, was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. And me as well. I mean, it was just part of what, you know, you remember, that nostalgia. Yeah. You know, obviously you went from wrestling into politics. You're not the only one. Jesse Ventura as well. But politics became a central, you know, kind of storyline with Hulk Hogan last year. We saw him at the RNC, that moment there where he ripped off his shirt, speaking to Americans. Obviously that moved voters. Obviously, that was an image that we'll never forget. What do you make of how instrumental he was there, standing with President Trump, talking about saving America, really, Glenn?
Yeah, I think this also speaks to President Trump's uniqueness and the fact that he knew Hogan for many years. You know, President Trump helped promote some of the early WrestleManias. So he remember a picture of him back in the day with Hogan. So I mean, it really just speaks to both of them, and the fact that, and a lot of times entertainers are hesitant to get into politics because of the polarization that can occur there. You know, so it was, I think it took a lot of really courage for Hogan to come out and do that and say, hey, this is my guy, and this is why I believe what I believe, because not everybody's going to.
No. Just a few moments ago, we were taking Tom Homan at the White House, and he even talked about how he had a dog, and the dog was Hulk Hogan. So everyone has a story today.
Awesome. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I thought it was pretty awesome. You're hearing a lot of stories. So tell us who called you first. How did you learn the news that your friend Hulk Hogan had passed away? And what are some of the other calls you're taking today? Wow, look at him there. We're showing him with Mr. T. Wow.
Mr. T, yeah. Yeah, I just started getting texts from people. And again, all across the spectrum, political people, but just friends. And that's the sentiment is universal, obviously. You know, we were all, especially people about my age, we were all just Hulk Hogan fans growing up. A little different, obviously, because I got to work with him some, not that much, but nevertheless, I did get to work with him, which for me was almost a dream come true, you know, because from watching him when I was a kid and idolizing him to being able to work with him a little bit was a bit of a dream fulfilled for me. But yeah, it's again, it's just everything across the spectrum. He had such an enormous reach throughout entertainment.
What was it? Because obviously you, as Kane, you know what it is like to have to build this character, but he was larger than life. He was kind of, you know, someone who transcended not just wrestling, but into pop culture in a way. What do you think it was about Hulk Hogan that he was able to capture and give to people out there in the audience and the world?
Well, obviously, he just had tremendous charisma and was a great performer and really was in the right place. He was the right person in the right place at the right time, with the mixture of, in the mid-'80s, of rock and wrestling, MTV, and his character did evolve over the years, and I think he was able to seize upon what was happening in pop culture with things like music videos and all that sort of stuff, to really propel his career forward. And then later, you know, a lot of folks look at it and say, oh, you know, Hogan is a very one-dimensional performer. It wasn't true. I mean, when he turned heel, when he turned bad guy with the NWO, and it was Hollywood Hulk Hogan, just did a fantastic job. So ultimately, it's just the fact that he was a great entertainer and had an opportunity to really showcase that.
7-foot-tall Glenn Jacobs, the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, better known as Kane, with some really cool info and insight. There is an entire generation, he makes an excellent point, of people that knew Hulk Hogan only as the biggest and best good guy, right? The hero, childhood icon from the Rocky movie, Thunder Lips. And then there's an entire generation of people that didn't see the Rocky movie, didn't know the good guy. People that loved him as the villain, the heel, as Jacob said, from the NWO days. New World Order is what that stands for, by the way. And Greg Kelly, a big Hulk Hogan fan, reminds us of how former MSNBC host Joy Reid tried to make Hogan's speech at the RNC about race, because that's all she did with everything.
The Hulk Hogan thing, I was like, really? My God.
He's like 80. I don't want to have like an 80-year-old ribbon on his shirt.
That's just, right. If I showed, as a black man, any level of that kind of confidence, I'd be considered uppity.
And aggressive.
And aggressive.
And dangerous.
And they'd be a noose ready for me.
No, you're just crazy. And who's that again? Who is that again? Anyway, I think she retired from television. That was amusing.
That's Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports, 9 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. And in a moment, Ed Henry is going to tell you about more over-the-top liberals that are getting their walking papers. President Trump did release a statement on Truth Social saying, "We lost a great friend today, the Hulkster." Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. And went on to say that Hogan's speech at the RNC was absolutely electric, the highlight of the whole week. And to his wife, Sky, and family, we give our warmest wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed. That from President Trump on Truth Social. Vice President Vance posted on X that Hulk Hogan was one of the first people he ever truly admired as a kid. And the last time they were together, they had promised that the next time they get together, they would have some beers. And the next time will now be on the other side. The White House also released a statement on X. And after that, the president did go over to the Federal Reserve and meet with Chairman Jerome Powell, where the air appeared to be as thick as at some wrestling events.
As you saw, President Trump just moments ago visiting the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, taking a look at the headquarters. Pretty incredible scene. Called Powell out to his face for cost overruns on those renovations at the headquarters. A reporter asked at one point, "Mr. President, you're a developer. What would you say to a building manager who did all this?" And the president gave that signature line from The Apprentice, "You're fired."
It looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1,
3.2. You just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire him.
Do you think this issue, Mr. President, gives you cause to do that?
Well, I'm here just really with the chairman. He's showing us around, showing us the work. And so I don't want to get that. I don't want to be personal.
He brought the receipts. He was joking about a firing, I think. But could Powell be the next head to roll? Have you noticed the lefty liars are dropping like flies ever since the president was elected in a landslide? First, it was a drip. It was CNN's Jim Acosta, gone. Poof, bye-bye. Joy Reid at MSNBC. Now it's a full-on deluge of Democrat decline. Terry Moran fired at ABC News after that bizarre Twitter tirade against White House aide Stephen Miller. Then left-wing NPR and PBS had their federal funding yanked. CBS ousted Stephen Colbert. He had a little temper tantrum the other night about it. And the president taunted his opponents on Truth Social by declaring he's hearing it's going to be ABC's Jimmy Kimmel who's acts next, which might be coming. But today, almost out of the blue, the next sacrificial lefty was revealed. The liberal ladies of The View are, well, taking a little break, per Joy Behar.
Before we go on hiatus, we only have one more show after this. I'm allowed to say that, right?
Too late now.
So it doesn't really matter.
We'll see. As a matter of time, the daily drumbeat of shrill anti-Trump commentary had gotten so tired, not to mention that after the president won that defamation suit against ABC News to the tune of about $16 million during the presidential transition, ABC lawyers were monitoring every word uttered on the show and forcing Behar after commercial breaks to read hostage video-style disclaimers about lies they spewed before the break. Behar, no doubt, gritting her teeth as she apologized to Trump cabinet picks like Pete Hegseth, actually being a little fair to Team Trump, went over about as well as how Colbert is taking his sacking over at CBS.
Friday, Donald Trump posted, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings." How dare you, sir? Would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism? Go yourself.
So mature. Now the left will lose it again and say the ladies of The View might be censored. Silenced by a dictator. Same old tired talking points when the dirty little secret is the real reason they're all getting canceled. Nobody wants to buy what they're selling. A growing number of Americans are tired of the whining when the president keeps winning. Basically, the marketplace for wacky left-wing ideas has melted down. You can see it. Enter Jerome Powell. He's normally dealing with market meltdowns of the Wall Street kind and started out as a free market Republican, nominated for the job by the president in the first term. But sadly for Powell, he chose to fall into line with the left, cutting interest rates to try and prop up Kamala during her campaign, and then stubbornly refusing to cut rates now and give the president the jet fuel that he says will further propel the emerging golden age of America. Powell insisting he has to keep rates high to fight inflation, when this president has already been whipping Bidenflation.
Waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting a pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs because someone has to pay for the tariffs.
They did not increase inflation. They did not plunge us into a recession. That was another liberal lie. The stock market, as you know, at record highs right now. Tariffs are bringing in billions of dollars to at least start to lower our debt. And the president is right. Now is the time to cut rates so you can refinance your mortgage, save some money. The housing market is at a standstill because of Powell. But notice how the Fed chair thinks he's so much smarter than you. Everyone that I know, everyone I talk to says inflation is going up. This is the elitist attitude that infects the swamp with so much smugness. Boy, with that attitude, he may have a future, Powell, on The View if they ever get back on the air and if they broaden the table to include a dude, I guess. But the king of smug, of course, is another lefty icon, former President Barack Obama. Remember how even Democrats got peeved during that last campaign when Obama tried to shame black men into voting for Kamala as if they were not smart enough to think for themselves. No wonder why President Trump got a record number of black votes. The record for Democrats has been real in the age of Trump.
If you did see Trump's meeting with Jerome Powell, that look of disdain on his face reminded me of my dad looking at my report card. All right, that is Ed Henry, host of The Briefing, 6 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax 2. Which brings us full circle to former President Obama and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, who sat down with Greta Van Susteren last night, and this is going to start in the middle of the interview after Tulsi Gabbard recaps all of the stuff that we've heard for the past week or so.
So the report that we released yesterday was a result of an investigation that the House Intelligence Committee staff majority conducted. It took them well over a year interviewing several of the intelligence professionals that were involved in the production of this manufactured intelligence document. And it really goes line by line detailing how this assessment that was created in January of 2017 at the direction of President Obama literally manufactured intelligence, knowingly put down falsehoods in order to reach this assessment conclusion that I stated, that Putin and Russia aspired to help Donald Trump win the election when it was blatantly false. They knew it was false, yet they sold it to the American people as though it were true.
You know, it's in my background. I mean, I want to see. I like transparency, so I want to see all as much as I can. I've looked at the report. A lot of it is redacted, so I haven't. But in every situation, as you might guess, people leave fingerprints, and there are two things that stick with me. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't be so. I wouldn't be so eager to find out what's going on because I think maybe let bygones be bygones, perhaps. But there are two things that they did in plain sight that they tried to do, and I don't think you can ignore that. On October 19th, 2020, they cooked up this letter, 51 signatures, saying that all the Hunter Biden stuff was part of Russian mischief. And to make matters worse, the origin of this was Anthony Blinken, who then went on to become Secretary of State, calling Mike Morrell, who wanted to be CIA director. They get 51 people together to put this document together saying that the laptop thing was a lie, when 9 months earlier, the FBI had already seized the laptop, and they knew that was real. So that and then, of course, in the debate between Trump and Biden in late October of 2020, what happens is President Biden, then Vice President Biden, uses this 51 against Trump. Now, that's in plain sight, which is very suspicious. Now, let me tell you one other thing that really bothers and sticks with me. It's hard to tell someone's intent. You know, people can make mistakes, but I have not gotten over the fact that James Comey had some notes of a conversation with Trump. And what he did with them is he didn't have the guts or the courage to release them to the New York Times like he wanted them. Instead, what he did is he came to one of his pals in New York, a law professor at Columbia, he sneaked into them to sneak to the New York Times to publish. Why was he sneaking around like that? So you've got these weird fingerprints that are in plain sight that make me enormously suspicious, which is why I'm anxious to see all your report, because there are just some red flags that got my antenna up. So that's what I have to say on this.
Yeah, Greta, I mean, you're right. It is difficult to understand intent. This is the hardest thing. However, when you look at this manufactured intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered be created in January of 2017, within the context of everything that happened before and everything that happened after over those 4 years of the first Trump administration, then it is hard to draw, in my view, any conclusion other than that which I've already said, which is this was a conspiracy, a treasonous conspiracy to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump in that 2016 election and the legitimacy of his presidency, and enacted what was essentially a years-long coup. When you look at the years-long Mueller investigation, you look at the 2 impeachments, you look at lengthy investigations, smears by their friends in the media against President Trump, his family, his senior officials within his cabinet and within the White House. The list goes on and on of all of these things happening. And what did they use as the foundation for this? It was this January 2017 manufactured intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered then DNI James Clapper and CIA Director John Brennan to produce.
All right. Well, we're going to need to see that sometime. But I will say this, is that they have left very visible, as I noted, fingerprints out there. They give very good reason that this should be pursued aggressively so that we see exactly the American people, because you know a whole lot more than the rest of us. But there's certainly the fingerprints out there that warrant full and complete investigation.
Veteran attorney Greta Van Susteren sitting down with the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on Newsmax. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is sitting down with an imprisoned Epstein co-conspirator and former companion Ghislaine Maxwell for a second day of questioning today. Maxwell apparently initiated the meetings as she appeals her sex trafficking conviction and tries to get out of the 20-year prison sentence that she's currently serving at a prison in Tallahassee, Florida. This is her attorney, David Marcus.
We don't want to get into the substance of the questions. There were a lot of questions, and we went all day, and she answered every one of them. She never just said, I'm not going to answer, never declined.
And Annie Farmer, one of the victims that has come forward, tells ABC News that she was lured by Maxwell and Epstein and sexually abused when she was 16 years old. Farmer says Maxwell getting any kind of a deal to get out of prison would be devastating.
Well, that would be devastating, not just for me. It would be devastating for so many people involved in this case. This was the one person who had been prosecuted for their crimes.
The whole purpose of potentially commuting or reducing Maxwell's sentence, again, I'm for reducing her sentence. I don't care what kind of testimony she gives. I don't think she should get her sentence commuted. But anyway, the whole point of this would be for information leading to the prosecution of others, right? Meanwhile, Maxwell, who's a disgusting human being, by the way, tries to get out of serving her sentence. Former New York Republican Congressman George Santos begins serving his 7-year prison sentence today after he pleaded guilty to federal wire fraud and aggravated identity theft charges last summer. You remember George Santos. And billionaire Jeff Bezos, founder and executive chairman of Amazon, sold another 6.6 million shares of Amazon stock for $1.5 billion this week. According to filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission, Bezos has sold more than $18 billion worth of stock in the last year alone. He needed $1 billion for that wedding that he had in Italy, right? Why is this important? Because Bezos is rumored to be considering buying financial news network CNBC from NBC. And the FCC approved Paramount's $8 billion merger with Skydance. Paramount owns CBS, who recently agreed to pay President Trump $16 million over the 60 Minutes Kamala Harris edited interview. And then earlier this week, fired late-night host Stephen Colbert, who some think was a sacrificial lamb to get this merger approved, not to mention that late night was losing $20 to $30 million a year. On Wall Street, stock markets opened flat to slightly higher this morning. Bitcoin and most other major cryptocurrencies are lower. Bitcoin is off $3,000 this morning, back down to 116,000. And I'll close it out with a reminder, since I didn't get to say it at the open. Today is National Hire a Veteran Day, created in 2017 by a Marine veteran and founder of Hire Our Heroes. Today's also National Hot Fudge Sundae Day. Need I say more? Be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day and throughout the weekend on Newsmax, N2, and at Newsmax.com. It all starts each and every day with Wake Up America, followed by National Report, Newsline at noon, all the way through Greta Van Susteren at 6, Finnerty, Greg Kelly, and much, much more. Don't forget about Wake Up America Weekend Edition, Saturday and Sunday mornings, followed by Saturday and Sunday Report. Sunday Agenda, America Right Now, Nancy Brinker, documentaries, special programmings, all kinds of fantastic weekend programming on Newsmax and N2. I'm Tony Marino. Have a fantastic and safe weekend doing whatever it is you love to do. Maybe have a hot fudge sundae today or tonight, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.